Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. So today, I want to talk about the surprising ways in which contracting made me the man I am today. That sounds like a big statement, but this really came about because I was speaking to my friend last night, and he was like, "You know what? You should talk about how contracting has really shaped you as a guy, as a person, whatever it may be." So this is focused on people who may be in similar situations to me back then. Okay, I'm not discriminating anyone else, but I'm trying to hone in on the person who feels like they weren't enough back in the day. And so I'm going to go through a bit of my story so you can have a bit of an understanding, and maybe you can sort of relate to this as well. So before sort of like, I would say 21, 2020, whatever it may be, I was at home. I was living at home with my mother and sister. And obviously, as you get older and everything else, you start to form your mind and everything else. I'm not some teenager. I'm a full grown man. And the question is, oh, could I have rented or whatever it may be? And I could have. But for whatever reason, I was rooted in my values that I wanted to buy. I didn't have to. I could have rented, but that wasn't the situation. I decided I was going to save up until I got myself a property. But the joke is, I had no savings because I was stuck and ridden by debt. And how did I get into this debt? Well, I've spoken about this in a previous video, so I'll make sure there's a link to it. But essentially, this debt was produced because I was trying to make money quick. I was paying for all these big sort of like entrepreneurial sort of like programs with Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's program back in the day. I think there was also something called Tigrant UK, which is like a property investing thing. There was an investing thing in general, so like with money assets. There was network marketing, so I did ACN. There was also stuff with Success Resources with people like JT Fox and Peng Jun. That's it, Peng Jun. I didn't really invest in his program, but I really liked what he had to say. And there was also stuff with Andy Harrington, his Jet Set Speaker. There was loads of stuff. So I really sort of like got all of this education and stuff, but it didn't necessarily give me the returns that I wanted. It gave me a lot of knowledge, but nothing substantial. And so that campaign started back in 2015, I want to say, back in 2015, 2014, 2015. So I would have been 23, 24 years old at the time. I was trying to like change my family tree sort of thing, but it wasn't working out that way. So I got myself into deep debt. And it wasn't a thing where I wasn't contributing to home or whatever it may be. It was like I was rented, you know what I mean? My mom don't business. And I don't blame her. But of course, it didn't necessarily give me a leg up. And, in the place that I was in at the time, I think it was in my NHS role, like I had done extremely well, but there had been no progression for years. Like, no progression. It was literally the same amount of money because they're very much in this sort of mindset of if you're at a certain band, you need to like really sweat before you get to the next level. That's the mentality. And so I played the game because obviously I was trying to become director. That was the aim and all that kind of stuff there. But it wasn't necessarily working out. Now, surprisingly, my first contract role was back in 2016, okay, or 2015, should I say, in September 2015. But I didn't know it was contracting, okay? I was eagerly applying for different contract roles for months. I think it was like 5.5 months from about April or so up until September. I got my first break. And essentially, I was a payments officer. I was making about £600 or £700 a week. It was pretty good money for that age at the time. I think I was, 24 years old. And I didn't realize it was contracting at all until years later, I realized that I was within the contracting space. But that's neither here nor there. I say that to say that once I started to learn this stuff in the interim, I saw different people who were in this whole contracting or consulting space, and I wanted to learn more about it. So there was a seed sparked, but it was my context, it was my situation that was really making me think, I need to change my family tree, man. I need to do something to at least get out of this house. Not in a negative way. I'm not even bashing, my mother or sister or anything like that. They know I dearly love them. I still talk to them regularly to this day, if not daily, so to speak. And so the point I'm making is that I know that I needed to step out of this space, this environment that I was in. And even though I was still sort of like helping people with their personal development, coaching, mentoring, mindset, leadership stuff, X, Y, and Z, I felt like I wasn't truly being the man I said I was, or at least people saw me to be, because no one really knew about my home situation. I never really spoke about it, so to speak. I kept it very stumm. Close people within my circle were the people who knew about it. So they knew how I really felt. And I remember one time I was thinking to myself, do you know what? Like, I really need to change this. I know this sounds crazy and I don't really mind how this may sound to the certain people, but you have to hear what I'm trying to say. As a man, as a person, as whoever I am right now, I didn't feel like I was truly a man. I just didn't. I felt like I couldn't provide a certain way or execute a certain way, whatever it may be. And I know we live in this sort of like left liberal world and whatever it may be. That's neither here nor there. This is how I felt. And so with those feelings, I got into a space where I was just like, I need to make some changes. I need to make some changes. And I remember back in 2018, I spoke to my mother about the whole debt situation and everything else. She kind of suspected it. She's not silly, but I was denying it for time. And essentially, the plan was really to consolidate things. This was pre 2018. But when it got to 2018, 2019, I decided that I need to pay this off aggressively, because they were telling me 2024 in terms of when I was going to pay this stuff back. I think I was like at least 30K in debt or something like that. Something close to that figure. And I thought, nah, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. I was already paying close to £550 a month on this stuff. I was making probably about, I want to say just under 50K maybe, So still okay money, relatively speaking, to the rest of the nation, but not enough. Not enough to really enjoy life. And so I made a decision that I was going to add an additional £1,000 consistently for the next 18 to 24 months. That was the decision I made. And so with that in mind, that really changed everything up, because it meant that I couldn't necessarily have as much fun. I had to be creative in certain endeavors in certain ways. I also needed to make sure that I wasn't acting a fool. I needed to analyze my money more. So during this time, previously before, I was using a lot of spreadsheets. Okay, what I would do is I would export it from, my bank, and then I'd do all this analysis on it and basically try to work out categorically where most of my money was being spent. And it was pretty clear. It was mainly in food. Your boy likes to eat. And number two, the odd holiday here and there. I'm not really a holiday person like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to be, but I knew I was kind of like reserved because of the money situation. Let's be real. But those two things were big. Obviously, transport is a no-brainer, all that kind of stuff there. So I knew I needed to make certain decisions, should I say. So the holidays needed to halt for a bit. And with the food, it needed to reduce a bit as well. And so with that in mind, I had a plan. I had a solid plan. I just said no to people. And if it weren't some sort of like casual meet up or going to the park or going for a walk or whatever it may be, I just wasn't on it. I just wasn't on it at all. And so with that in mind, I was able to slowly but surely get closer towards my goal. Now, why is this important? This is important because when you sit down and you are seated in your pain, you start to realize that, hey, something needs to change. Like something needs to, if I really want to be the person, if I really want to be the man that I say I am, I need to make some changes. It's that simple. And so as I got closer and closer and closer towards my goal, I think it was in 2020 when I started to see that, wow, like payments are being made. Do you know what? I may have got this wrong. I think I either cleared things off in 2020 or 21. I always get mixed up, but let's just say it was in 2021. Okay, for argument's sake. And so with that in mind, as I was getting closer and closer and closer towards my goal, I realized that actually this is possible. This is something that is going to work. And so I got super excited. I got super enthusiastic. And already I started to plan in my head how I was going to spend my money because I had this plan. I was like, and I've always said this to my missus, like if, I pay off this debt or whatever it may be, I'm proposing to you straight away. I'm not playing. Your boy's not playing. Yeah. And so that's exactly what happened. But before I get onto all of that part, what ended up happening after I paid off my loan was the following things. I launched my fourth book. Okay. I launched my fourth book, The Power of Goals. You can check it out on Amazon. I was able to rebrand my bedroom for the YouTube videos because I started to work out a little bit, at least anyway, how to play the game a little bit. You know, when you buy these courses, they give you some ideas and you thought, okay, let me try this out. I was also in a position where I was able to, again, finish my coach training. This was a big part of my career. I also bought the ring for my fiance, and your boy, like, literally researched it and designed it and paid for it and everything in one hit. I was also able to start saving for a house, which would be another video. I mean, it took us 10 months, about 10 or 11 months to save roughly about 52, 53K. I mean, again, my missus was already on it, but for me, I had to catch up. And because of your contract money, that sped up the whole process as well. So that'll probably be another video in itself. Obviously, I started contracting and I bought my house as well. So these are like, I'm hitting things off. Tick, 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 tick. All because of pain. All because of pain. And all because of a burning desire to accomplish something bigger, badder, and bolder. I had to be in that seat because if I never made those decisions, yeah, I wouldn't have been happy. That's the reality of the situation. And so this is all to say that, look, if you're in a space where you want to start contracting or you want to start entrepreneurship or you want to pivot into a portfolio career that is more aligned to you as a person, think about the opportunity cost, but also think about the pain. What pain are you in right now? If you're looking at me and you're thinking, we're similar, or if you're thinking, yeah, this has happened to me, if you're thinking, oh, I'm better than this guy or whatever it may be, then the reality is, why aren't you in that space? This is not even me being flippant or rude or horrible. Just ask yourself that question. Why aren't you in that space? Maybe you're not confronting certain truths. Maybe you're not confronting certain questions. Maybe you're not able to push the boat on certain things. But you have to sit down deeply and ask yourself, why am I in this situation? If you're downtrodden by sort of like debt, what I would do is sit down, look at your debt and think very succinctly and very aggressively, what can I get rid of and what can I focus on? Okay? It's not necessarily about making more money now. Sometimes we can't do that. I know we got all these YouTubers saying, yeah, here's, all these different ways to make money and all that kind of stuff there. That's great. But the reality is you watch that and then you keep it moving. You keep on scrolling. In fact, you end up watching shorts or you end up watching something else because you know you're not going to do it. And even if you do try it, you don't go all the way. This is why we're in the situations that we're in. I say that because that's me. That is me. That's what ends up happening. And so you need to think to yourself, what can I do now? And so with that in mind, again, sit down, look at your expenses, your income, think about what you want to get rid of, but really think about what is your goal and what lifestyle you're trying to create. That will tell you what you need to do in order to create that lifestyle moving forward. Because once you have that baseline of no debt, then you can start thinking about basic things like an emergency fund. Some of you are in situations where you feel like you can't transition into contracting because you don't have an emergency fund. Well, maybe you just have to start the place beforehand. Some of you are a bit more risky and like, I don't care if I'm in debt. I don't care if I don't have an emergency fund. I'm still going to dive in. I can use credit or debt to keep me afloat for a bit. And then, hopefully within a couple of weeks or a couple of months, I'll get a contract. I'm not telling you what to do. If you haven't seen my other videos, you can watch those other videos and determine how I would approach it and how I have actually approached it. But I'm only saying this to you so you can understand this. But you need to think to yourself, who do you want to be? How do you want to be remembered? How do you want people to see you? How do you want to be associated? How do you want to be affiliated? This is why I've titled this, The Surprising Ways in Which Contracting Shaped Me into the Man I Am. Because what contracting gave me the opportunity to do is to make money quicker. Of course, there is the networking opportunities. Of course, there's the experiences. Of course, there is the respect from people who you're helping and everything else. Of course, there are many negatives as well. I'll probably do another video on that. I know I spoke about the dark side of contracting. You can check that out for yourself. But the reality is, It's accelerated things for me. It's given me a bit more flexibility and time freedom. I'm not going to glamorize it like it's completely different. Of course, there are some contracts where it's wildly different, and other contracts, they're kind of like a glorified 9 to 5. You're just not permanent. It just depends where you're at and what you're looking to push yourself into. But the point I'm making is it's leveled me up in many different ways. And now it's given me the space, the time, and the money to truly think, how do I want to moving forward? Again, I say this all the time, and for those of you who've been following my journey so far, this is phase 2. This is phase 2. Phase 1 was essentially creating those foundations. Think of it like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've got the base sort of Maslow's sort of like setup and structure. Phase 2 is literally where it's propelling myself into a position where not even I have the knowledge and understanding, but I'm on my track to helping other people, helping myself, helping those around me, so that I can be in a space and be the person that I was called to be. Phase 3 is really living in that element. Come on now. Do you know what I mean? Really living in that element where I can truly help people en masse, on scale, or whatever it may be. And so you need to ask yourself these questions. These questions are, what is preventing me from being that person? What do I have to do now, which I may not like, in order for me to progress? Do I feel embarrassed by this? And if so, why? Who's causing that embarrassment? How can I truly live authentically in the now and in the future? What are my core beliefs? What are my core values? What do I truly see as important? These questions, when answered properly and honestly, but aggressively, you have to have that balance between brutal honesty and loving honesty. Then you'll be able to move forward. You have to. You know, brutal honesty is usually with self. You can look yourself in a mirror, maybe even naked if you want to, and really, what do you see? What do you truly see? It's called mirror work within the coaching space. What do you truly see? And of course, you can get that loving honesty from friends, family, accountability buddies, whatever it may be. Maybe you need an accountability buddy. Maybe you need to sit down with someone, okay? This could be a really trusted friend or somebody you met at a networking event or, program or work. You just have to trust them. They have to be ambitious and they have to want something and want to help you too. Maybe you can talk to them about it on a rhythmic basis. Set yourself up to succeed, because it's not easy in these streets. You know this. I mean, I'm getting messages quite frequently on LinkedIn, or it's mainly on LinkedIn if I'm honest with you. People seem to find my YouTube and then find me on LinkedIn. There seems to be a connection. And I'm getting a lot of positivity from it. I'm really grateful for it. But this is only sped up because I made that decision to focus on paying off those debts and decide that I was going to live in my own place. I was going to live in my own yard, so to speak. 10.5 months to save 53K. That's insane. You work out the maths. Obviously, we did it halfway. It's insane for my missus. She's not even a contractor. So she did amazingly well. But obviously, we set up our system a certain way financially. And so I just want you to truly say, like, you're not less of a man or woman, if you're a woman watching this, if you're not in the space that you want to be in. You're not any less. However, to catch up with the level of confidence and esteem that you believe you should be at, you need to make some decisions. Seriously, man. Because the outputs and the results that you get are based on what you decide to do every single day. It's a decision. It's a decision at the end of the day. You can't take anything for granted. Nothing is guaranteed. Of course, you've heard this many times before. Tomorrow is not promised. So what are your decisions today that you're going to make in order for you to progress forward? I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it very, very simple. Again, if this has resonated with you, please feel free to leave a comment below, because I want to know if I've helped. I really do want to know if I've helped. Obviously, you've seen that I've been posting videos a bit more regularly. I'm not making any promises. I'm just doing what I feel right now because, I feel like doing it. So leave your comments below. And again, if you want to see more videos like this around positive psychology, life management, and also portfolio careers, then don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.